All right, so hello everyone. I hope everybody's hanging in there okay. Welcome to Module 4. We have one more module for the groups class, Module 5, that'll be up next week. At this point, we're just about done with the semester. In addition to today's covering of evaluation, next week we'll be looking at ending with groups, and that's a very important stage. Oftentimes we need to be thinking about ending even at the beginning of our time with our groups, and I'll cover that next week, of course, when we talk about it. Before talking about the focus of today's synopsis, which is about evaluating groups, I do want to let everyone know that there is still the option at the end of the semester if you'd prefer to take a standard kind of end of semester challenge versus doing the module challenges. You're perfectly welcome to do that. Just remember that when I publish the challenge, it will be very much like taking it at any other point in the semester. So that means there'll be a time limit on it. You'll only be able to take it one time. Depending on the number of ISQ responses that I get, I think I can probably make this an open book, but actually, now that I'm thinking of it, let's just make it an open book kind of experience, but it will be timed. So you'll have about 75 minutes to complete 50 or 60 questions that'll all be multiple choice or true or false. In the meantime, if you've been keeping up with the challenges, there's no need to be concerned about taking the end of semester challenge. And I'd prefer really that you make a decision about doing one or the other. So in other words, if I see that you've completed the end of semester challenge, I will regard that as your decision to go with the score for the end of semester challenges covering the average scores for all of the challenges for the modules 1 through 5. If you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to drop me an email, and I'll be happy to get back with you about it. So we are, again, just about at the end of the semester with our class, and certainly it's really important when we're working with our groups to keep the notion of evaluation in mind, particularly as we're getting toward the ending phase of the group, during which we'll be looking at things like where did people start and where are they now that we're at the ending point of the group. Evaluation is a key component of being able to do that, so that in that ending stage of group, you're able to help group members consolidate their gains and understand, again, where they were when they started and where they are now that they're about to finish. So evaluation really is something that's very important for us to be mindful of. It's important for us to include it at no matter what level of intervention we're doing, whether it's individuals, groups, families, organizations, or communities. Even those kinds of interventions require some amount of evaluation. So we do evaluation for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, it improves our accountability with our clients. So what we're really looking at is, did the client get what it is they wanted when they came to be a member in our group in the first place? So we want to have some process in place to get an idea about that. It also gives us an idea about what sorts of approaches or strategies that we've used in our groups that really are effective or not. So finding out that something that you were doing wasn't working is good information. It may feel a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, it gives you an idea about whether or not a particular strategy or a way of working with the group was really the best way to go with that particular group. And certainly, when we're talking about evaluation, I think it's important to keep in mind that doing evaluation on a regular basis, making it a part of your practice, is also a strategy for letting administrators at agencies know what it is that you're doing and how well you're doing it. Without that piece, it makes us very vulnerable as a profession to budgetary cutbacks and those kinds of things. So oftentimes, if you've been collecting data about evaluative data about how you're doing with your groups or your individuals or your families or wherever you're practicing, you'll be able to let administration know really how important it is that you're a part of things, and they'll be more than likely to continue having you work there versus letting you go. So certainly in this module, we'll be looking at what evaluation actually is. and also how to make use of some evaluation methods. And those evaluation methods are things that we can use throughout the group experience, from the planning phase to the ending phase. But in particular, in this section, we're going to be looking at doing evaluation from the perspective of understanding, again, where our clients are with respect to having made progress in the group. So with respect to conducting an evaluation, I'm hoping that by the time you're through with this module, in terms of your reading and looking at the slides and so on, that you'll have a better understanding of monitoring methods like questionnaires, gathering feedback from group members about their experiences. If you have the option of recording groups, whether it's video recording, audio recording, or even just a written kind of process recording, even those measures can be ways of getting a better idea about what's working in your groups. I will talk a little bit about process recordings, and on that note, keep in mind that that process recording assignment that you see in the syllabus is not required any longer. The challenges for the modules or the end of semester challenge will replace the grades that would have come from those assignments. But a process recording is a really helpful way, not as much to analyze the group as it is for you to analyze your work with the group. Process recordings are verbatim transcription of what you say and what the client says from the beginning to the end of the session, so they can be pretty tedious to do. But when you take those process recordings and share them with a supervisor or somebody that you're training with, it can be very helpful for being a tool that indicates where you might want to do some additional work with clients, where things worked, where things didn't work, and that kind of thing. It's also a great way for you to track your own emotional processes while you're working with clients, so that you get a better idea about how to manage your own emotions while you're in the heat of providing service. So one last thing, I think one of the things that this particular component of the course does is it challenges you to remember as much as you possibly can from your research course. So it'll be important by the time you're done to be able to differentiate between what an experimental design is and what a quasi-experimental design is, or concepts like validity and reliability. Remember those? I'm sure those are things that Dr. Choi shared with you in your research course, and those will come back again in your readings with this course as well. It's important that, especially with regard to using standardized instruments in evaluation, that we are familiar with concepts like validity and reliability. And certainly important also to be thinking of evaluation as something that we absolutely incorporate it as a final step almost before we end with our groups. By becoming familiar with evaluation and its role in our practice as social workers, it really does help us to, I think, improve, get better and better at what it is we do as social workers. Okay, so as always, if there's anything you have questions about or concerns about anything for the remaining weeks of the semester, be sure to let me know right away, and I'll be happy to get right back to you. Thanks. Bye.